Good morning. This week we're doing hydrangeas. I really love doing hydrangeas. I've done a bunch of them this year for my show that I'll be having at the Majestic in April in acrylic. I haven't done any this year in watercolor, but I'm kind of drawn to this reference that I'm sending you and this reference because they're so loose. I'm not really going to paint petal for petal, but I'm going to use washes, wet and wet to start with, and then I'm going to just charge in or drop in colors. As I say, I'm going to try to do something that's kind of a combination of these two. And so for my palette, I'm going to be using the same basic palette that we've had all along of about 12 colors, but I've added, of course, since we did the irises last week, I've added some violets because it just makes sense not to have to mix them when there's such beautiful colors in the tube. I have the same blues, and in addition I have a turquoise. So these are all the other colors that we've been using all along, a warm and a cool and a sort of organic natural third color of each. A warm and a cool, and just trying to find the right balance between all of them. As I have been showing you, I've done very just loose sketches for placement. Hydrangeas to me are like snowballs. That's what we used to call them when we were kids. And so it's just getting a bride, just kind of sketching these in for placement. In this case, I've done a vase, and I see it's too much in the middle, so I'm going to change it over to a little off-center. And I've got the water and the ellipse that we've learned with cups and bowls, etc. So this will be kind of the way I approach it with this kind of a drawing and then dropping paint in. This was another one I did just randomly. And I really still recommend loose little sketchy sketches rather than getting tight and rendering the flowers as real flowers. That gets you in the rhythm and the motion to do what you want. These, I didn't look at each of these as I did them, but look at how similar they are. And then now I can probably do that on the paper. I won't make as many lines because that might get in the way of things, but just a little sketchy sketch. And with florals, we want the colors or the illusion of the drawing to come off the sides. This is a portrait format. There would be nothing wrong with doing it on a horizontal landscape format. So I'm just gonna, that's just enough for me to get started. Each one of these references have some leaves in them. I might develop them or not, because I think when we do the wet and the wet for the background, I can create the illusion of just dropping in some kind of greenish color to make the illusion. So I'm going to start this and we'll see what happens. Nothing's going to look like the references, but they're there just to inspire. I'm just going to wet this and just drop some color into it. Have no idea how it's going to work out, but at least I know that we have to start with a wet and wet wash. This is on hot press paper, so this could be anything. We'll see. I'm really just starting to use some palette mud so that it doesn't scream a strong color. It's got mostly blues in it. But as you can see, it is indeed palette mud. I'm not just going into one color. And as we know, watercolor dries lighter, so this is just really tinting the paper. More of what I'll be painting will come as I go along. While it's wet, I'm going to just drop in a little bit more color, but still not going to be forming the shapes of any flowers yet. Right now I'm kind of thinking more about getting some blues down. Well, I don't even see my drawing, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to deliberately leave some whites. Kind of going around where I left my drawing. And I'm mixing my blues up so it's not screaming just one color. That's okay. That's more my ultramarine right there. I might drop in. This is really going to be more a do-it-yourself. I'm not following really any reference that well. I think I'll throw some a little bit of the yellows in, just a skosh. Well, actually I'm going to use a little bit of the yellow ochre. as it dries, you can see that some of the edges are hardening up, which is kind of interesting. I really like what's happened here. I'm going to leave that totally alone because it's making some nice floral lines there. And we'll just see how this ends up. Again, I'm going to let this dry another round and we'll do a little more negative painting. This is dry, or almost dry now, and it's perfectly fine to leave it like that. But I'm going to play with it a little bit and show you if this is not enough for you. In the past, some of you have done this with me, but I can start to just kind of draw in a little bit of the floral petals. I don't want to do too many because then it'll get too busy looking. And I can just keep moving like this. Keep the pen moving. This is a Sharpie Ultra Fine. It's not dry enough yet, so I'll wait until I can get a little drier, and then the pen will move around a little easier. But this is something else you can do. This is drier now, and as I suggest, it should be bone dry because the pen doesn't take so well if it's just a little bit damp. And so some of you know that when we're using pen and ink, we just keep the pen moving, and I'm just making random marks. They don't even look like flowers, but I'm going to just go around and create the illusion of petals. I'm not putting the little bud in them, just a couple of them maybe I'll do, but just giving it some more definition. Now this is using the element of line, which is an equally important design element. And I'm not going to do this around the whole thing, just a cluster of them to just create a little bit more interest. It still reads as a watercolor, so I'm going to move it around a little bit. I'm not going to hit every one of these blossoms. Just keeping the pen moving. Again, it's just another way to express yourself. I think I'll go up into, but you notice that I'm doing it in clusters. I'm not going to do the whole thing. That almost might be enough. If your hand is a little bit palsied like mine is, it makes for even more jerky, wonderful marks. I'm calling them wonderful. I think they are. I don't think I'll even bother going up into that leaf. But I do kind of think it creates a little, I might do a little bit about this vase, not continually. Give a little indication of the water line. And I'll just do a little bit with the you don't have to make all the different lines. You notice I skipped the water line in the back, but stopped before the water line in the front. I think that's enough, because now I've got some open spaces. I've got loose edges, hard edges, value change, a unified palette, and a little bit of interest with the pen that makes it kind of a little bit of a mixed media. Hope you enjoyed it.